Sometimes, all it takes is walking into a room to sense that something is off. The silence feels heavy, the glances carry weight, and even without a single word, we can feel the atmosphere shift. It's as if someone's energy passes through us without permission. It might be a sharp comment, an impatient look, or a sigh filled with tension. Even when we're at peace, that presence can throw us off balance, and we don't always know why. But the truth is, this influence only takes hold when something within us matches that frequency. The other person's negative energy only finds space when it resonates with something unresolved inside us. It could be an old fear, a buried insecurity, or a wound that hasn't yet healed. What we experience as an invasion is, in reality, a mirror reflecting something that was already there, even if dormant. That's why two people can react so differently to the exact same situation. What goes unnoticed by one can become a trigger for another. It's not just about what the other person says or feels, it's about what it awakens in us. And this doesn't happen because we choose to absorb it, but because their energy touches something we haven't fully seen or healed. Recognizing this isn't about blame, it's about awareness. And that awareness is the first step to breaking the cycle. Because if what affects us is already inside, then the key to transforming these encounters is also in our hands. When we feel someone's negativity reaching us, our first reaction is almost always to resist. We shut down, judge, and try to push that energy away as if we could force it out with sheer will. Sometimes we respond with coldness, other times with irritation or even anger. The impulse to defend ourselves is automatic. We want to protect our peace, but end up getting even more entangled in the situation. Resisting feels like self-preservation, but often, it's exactly what binds us to the other person's energy. By reacting harshly, we end up feeding the very vibration we're trying to avoid. It's like stepping into an invisible battle. No one's shouting, but both sides are silently fighting for control, for the right to be heard, for justice. And in that exchange, we lose what we were trying to protect all along, our inner balance. Even if we don't say anything out loud, the conflict can still rage inside us. We create mental arguments, judge the other person's behavior, replay the scene over and over in our minds. That inner resistance is also a form of connection with the negativity. The more we think about what happened, the more energy we give it. The bond, though invisible, becomes stronger. And here lies the paradox: the more we try to escape by resisting, the more stuck we become. True freedom doesn't come from confrontation, it comes from the choice to stop feeding the cycle. There is a quiet force that protects us from the influence of others: presence. Being present isn't just about being in the here and now, it's about being fully within yourself, aware of what you feel, attentive to what you think, steady in your own center. When we cultivate this state, we're able to sense someone else's energy without getting lost in it. The negativity may pass close, but it finds nowhere to land. It's like standing in the eye of a storm. Chaos spins all around, but inside, everything is still. Presence gives us this internal space where we can observe without reacting, feel without absorbing. When someone tries to provoke, blame, or destabilize us, and we manage to stay clear and grounded, we're practicing that presence. It's not indifference, it's awareness. It's not coldness, it's clarity. But the mind is used to reacting. It wants to fix, to argue, to win a fight that hasn't even started. That's why presence takes practice. It requires a pause before we respond, a breath before we get involved, a conscious choice before we act. Just a few seconds, but they make all the difference. In that space between stimulus and response, there is freedom. And it's there that we choose whether we'll drown in the drama or remain in peace. When we are truly present, we stop being mirrors for other people's pain. We hold our own frequency, even when everything around us tries to pull us out of it. And in that state, We not only protect ourselves, we also inspire others to do the same, without saying a single word. It's easy to respond to negativity with judgment. To think the other person is being unfair, toxic, or overreacting. But when we look beyond the surface, we often find something deeper. Behind the anger, the criticism, or the coldness, there's usually pain. Not everyone knows how to ask for help, and many express what they feel in the only way they've learned, by attacking, complaining, or pushing others away. When we're able to see this, compassion is born. And compassion changes everything, because it shifts how we relate to the other. We stop seeing them as a threat and begin to recognize a person in conflict with themselves. That doesn't mean accepting everything or abandoning our own boundaries. On the contrary, true compassion walks hand in hand with firmness. You still say no when needed, but you no longer feel the urge to respond with aggression. Compassion moves us out of the role of victim and into the role of conscious observer. When someone lashes out and we still choose to keep our heart open, we break the cycle. We don't absorb, we don't react. We simply acknowledge, this isn't mine. And in doing so, we preserve our peace, without numbing ourselves or shutting down our sensitivity. Responding with compassion isn't about staying silent in the face of disrespect, it's about refusing to carry what doesn't belong to us. It's staying human in the midst of someone else's chaos, without losing yourself in the process. One of the greatest sources of suffering is wanting the other person to change. Wishing they wouldn't bring that heaviness, that they'd act with more awareness, that they wouldn't affect us so much. But this expectation creates resistance, and resistance keeps us stuck. True freedom begins when we accept that we have no control over what another person feels, does, or projects. And most of the time, trying to change someone is just another way of exhausting ourselves. Acceptance doesn't mean agreeing with everything. It means recognizing reality as it is, and then choosing how to respond. When we understand that someone's behavior reflects their own story, not our worth, we stop taking it so personally. We no longer feel the need to fix, carry, or absorb what was never ours to begin with. And that acceptance creates space for something essential, the right to set boundaries. Healthy boundaries don't push people away. They protect connection. They say, I respect you, and I also respect myself. Creating that space is an act of self-love. You can still be present, compassionate, and kind, without letting someone else's energy spill over and invade what is yours. You can listen without absorbing. Be close without losing yourself. When we accept that we are not responsible for anyone else's emotional weight, we free ourselves. And from that freedom comes clarity, to act with strength but also with softness. With compassion, but with boundaries. Without guilt, without burden, only awareness. Negativity needs fuel to grow. And the fuel it feeds on most is reaction. When someone is consumed by anger, frustration, or resentment, they're often unconsciously seeking a response that validates that state, an argument, a disapproving look, a sharp word. Anything that says, I'm playing the same game as you. And the moment we give them that, we connect to their frequency and lose ourselves in it. But when we don't react, something interesting happens. The other person's energy loses power. Without resistance, without opposition, without fuel, it simply has nowhere to land. Sometimes this throws people off. They expected confrontation, guilt, drama, and instead they meet silence, presence, neutrality. It's not passivity, it's wisdom. It's choosing not to dance to the music they're playing. Of course, this doesn't mean the negativity disappears instantly. It might continue spinning within the other person's field. But without your reaction, it gains no momentum. And over time, it's as if the mirror stops reflecting. Your lack of engagement creates an empty space, and in that space, the other person might begin to see themselves more clearly. Sometimes, even awaken. Not reacting doesn't mean being passive. It means acting on a different level. It's protecting your peace without building walls. It's staying present without being pulled in. And in that quiet space, many healings begin, both for you and for those around you. At some point on the journey, we realize it's no longer about changing others, it's about transforming ourselves. That true power doesn't lie in controlling our environment or avoiding negative people, but in strengthening what lives within us. When our presence becomes stable, we stop being so easily affected. Not because the world has become lighter, but because we've learned how to hold our own light, even in the face of someone else's shadow. That shift changes everything. We begin to care for our frequency with more attention, to recognize the subtle signs when we're drifting from our center, and to consciously choose what's worth feeding, and what isn't. Peace stops being something external and becomes a daily practice, a quiet decision we make, moment by moment. And the most beautiful part is that, by maintaining this inner steadiness, we naturally influence the space around us, without saying a word. Our calm becomes an invitation. Our presence becomes a reference point. And little by little, without effort, we show that there is another way, a way to feel without sinking, to care without losing ourselves, to live in the world without becoming tangled in it. In the end, dealing with other people's negativity becomes just another opportunity to deepen our own awareness. A call to rise above reactivity and to consciously choose the kind of energy we want to carry and spread wherever we go. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like the video. It really helps this content reach others who are also on their path of growth and inner clarity. Feel free to share it with someone who might need to hear this today. And if you feel called, leave a comment below. I'd love to know what part spoke to you the most. And if you're ready to keep exploring this journey of consciousness and transformation, I invite you to join me in the next video. We'll continue diving deeper, step by step, into the subtle layers of this awakening. See you there.